We're within our time allotment.
All right.
Christy,
This is Michelle.
Michelle, okay.
Oh, hi. Sorry, yes.
Come on up, Michelle, you'd be first.
Oh, okay. My sister was on her way, but I'm sure it'll be fine either way. That's who I was texting. I'm like, where are you? So I apologize for that.
You're good.
Hi.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Michelle Holyoke, and I don't know what else you want to know from me other than I've never done anything like this before. So
Just go over why you're here and what your offer is.
okay, great. So there is a piece of parcel of land that is right behind my house. It is on the auction last week. It was parcel RPC ending in 2400. And it did not sell. It's described as Section 23, Township 6, South, Range 34 East, Boise Meridian is what it's described as. Are we on the same page? Do you guys know what property I'm talking about? Okay, before I go much farther. So this piece of property is, I believe, and it seems to be the case through the research that I have done, undevelopable. There's no access to the property besides through my backyard and my neighbor's backyards probably, but it's at a very steep grade, and it's a small parcel. I've done my research and looked into it, and the last time properties were paid on this tax was the year I was born, in 1986. It came up for auction for a bid around $1,500, and we felt like, oh, hi, sister. My husband and I felt like we could offer $500 for the property, because our consideration is no one's paid taxes on it for my entire life, but if we can acquire the property, then we will start paying taxes on it, right? And as of right now, it's not being used for anything. My husband and I have worked tirelessly to improve our backyard, our section of it, and it's like 2 feet farther back is this section we don't own, and my kids would love to be able to play there, right? So that's where we're at.
Well, I believe that's a very fair offer. I'd just soon get it off the county's rolls.
Okay.
Yep.
I would concur.
Yep.
Have a motion on that?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the offer of $500 on parcel number RP, where did it go, sorry? CPP 082400 as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate
Okay.
your time.
Now, the process of paying.
Yes.
So, right here.
Okay.
Fill out your name that you want on the deed, the address, how you want to pick up your phone number, take it down to room 104.
Okay, and I can just pay for it today down there,
Mhm.
or, okay, perfect.
If you pay with a check, it'll take a little bit longer
Oh,
for the,
I have cash, so
okay.
that should be fine.
there you go.
Thank you guys
thanks.
so much.
Thank
for
you
your
guys.
time. Appreciate it.
We appreciate it too. Thank you.
So Daniel Tanner should be here any minute. He was planning on being here at 9:30. Okay.
But by their reaction, I should have offered him $1.
Hey!
Okay. Okay.
Lesson learned, don't be so excited.
That's right.
All right, you're in the hot seat.
Good morning.
Please state your name and tell us why you're here.
Daniel Tanner. And then I'd first like to make a record that I'm not clocked in for this meeting. I also wasn't for the Bannock County auction that I attended on the 26th. And then during the auction, Bannock County was unsuccessful in selling parcel RPRAGUA 000800, which is approximately 0.16 acres of land located in Aramo. I'm hoping to be successful in purchasing this parcel from Bannock County. I would like to offer today buying that parcel for $350. The county would benefit from me purchasing this property and paying property taxes associated with this parcel for years to come. This property is located in Aramo, and the only access to this property is through an alleyway that the city does not maintain regularly. It is landlocked on every other side from either the state, city, and/or another parcel owner. And then, thanks for taking the time meeting with me today. That's all I got.
And the $350 covers the cost that we've incurred, so.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the offer for $350 on parcel RPR AGUA 000800.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Now you go
You know
clock
where to
in.
go to pay your bill?
I'll find out right here.
Name and the address that you want on the deed, take this down to room 104, and they'll help.
Okay.
Just go to auditing.
All right, thank you.
Was Kerry coming also?
Should be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Emma could go. She would be short.
Okay. Emma?
You can do it from there. Where's Gary?
Move a little one seat for you guys. So I'm Emma Iannacone. I'm the Public Information Officer for the county, and today I wanted to discuss purchasing a subscription service to Constant Contact, which would be a program, not a software, but a program that helps us issue our monthly newsletter that we've been discussing starting for next year, which would help work us towards our goals of transparency and marketing the county, being more accessible to our residents. This subscription to Constant Contact for 500 subscribers would cost $45 a month, and they have a couple of deals going on. One of them ends today. That would give us 40% off for the first 4 months, and then if we purchase in a 12-month increment for the whole year, we get 20% monthly discount, which would we get a 30% monthly discount, which would take $162 off of the yearly cost. So it's a pretty good deal for what we'd be getting. We'd have to up our subscription if we get more than 500 subscribers, and that would bump us up to $70 a month. This service would also help us if we wanted to start sending out our agendas and minutes to people who want to stay up to date on what's going on with the BOCC or the Fair Board or Planning and Zoning. We can send out those agendas through this service. We can also use the emails that we garner, the subscribers, to send out surveys for any projects that we want public feedback for. So it's a pretty cool service, and I think that it would be beneficial to the county.
So what fund are we paying this out of?
Do we have
anything? I mean, we have a professional services line item in the commission office and some other stuff in there. I'm sorry, I left my budget book downstairs.
You're good. I assumed you guys had monies figured out because I hadn't.
No, that's my bad. I forgot to look at that.
Well, that's just a question I ask everybody.
Yeah, that goes to everybody. Where's the money come from to pay for it?
See, and I know that. I even forgot to look, so that's totally on me.
We've got professional services, so depending on what that needs, there's $30,000 in there. We're honestly talking not that much money
Yeah,
for the year. It's
So professional
probably
services
going to be
line.
easy to cover.
commission office, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anytime I request for funds, I just like to know, so where are you getting it from?
Okay.
'Cause
did anybody,
we don't have an open checkbook.
Right.
we ask everybody.
So from the county operations budget, right? I would like to request this funds.
Okay, there we go, there we go.
Professional services.
For professional services.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve and authorize the service subscription for Constant Contact for the county newsletter. Is there a contract to assigned, or is it done, and this is point of information, not in part of the motion, is it a sign up just in the web, or is it a a printed contract? How is that?
I think it's done through the web, but we could probably, if we need a printed contract.
No, it's typically in a web subscription.
That
Like
was a
that.
web subscription.
If it's a web subscription, we just give authorization to.
Which, that brings up a good question. For things like this, which I'm sure there may be others throughout the county, do we want to have all those go through Adam so that all those web subscriptions are through him, or?
So the
What's-
other question would be, does this require an auto renewal on the
Like
subscription?
For each year?
Yeah.
I can look into that.
Okay.
It does not require auto. I mean, it's, the default is to set up that way, but it is not a
Are they going to
requirement.
want a credit card on file?
Yes, they will.
Okay, so we have started a recurring credit card
Mm-hmm.
that when you utilize that card, we just ask that you make sure to put the AP at Bannock County email address on it, because then when it charges,
It
and the
notifies you.
department may or may not remember that it charges, we at least get notified so that we can start the track down process for someone that may or may not have turned in a receipt.
Okay.
If this is something you're going to want to do, I would ask if we could just do it for the year so that we're not having monthly
Yeah.
charges. That makes it easier for our office to track it. But then when time comes to renew, if they notify like you and the AP email, then we can work together on making sure we get done what needs done to make the charge happen. So we would just need to make Emma a approved credit card user, and then she could get the card to renew it, or we could do it through Adam.
Okay. Which is, that's my question to you guys. Is there a preference for how we do that? Because I'm assuming there's probably
I
several
would
of these
either
type of
I would
things
either do
out
it
there.
with Adam or do it with Shanda as an account, because it's in our.
Anything computer related, I would ask that it go through Adam, just simply because then if he's the point of contact, then we know anything computer, he's in the loop on it. It would just make it easier for us
Okay.
so that we could coordinate that.
Well, we've encouraged everybody to go through Adam.
Okay. So back to my motion.
Sorry, I just.
I would
thought about that.
authorize, or I would move to authorize a subscription to Constant Content and have Emma work with Adam to get the subscription set into place for 1 year.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
And if Adam's going to help do that, he's already got the ability to use a credit card. I'm assuming you may want Emma to have that, so it's not going to be a big deal to get her signed up, but they could move forward without having that signed.
Okay. Okay. Carrie?
We have to have one for the record.
We're all right.
We can share. We're good.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Carrie Hong, trial court administrator, joined by
Ashley Brinkhurst with D6 Treatment.
thank you for your time this morning. We're asking for the commission to review and approve a plan to move forward on some temporary assistance for D6 treatment related to a upcoming vacancy that we've been provided notice for, and then also to assist D6 employees during the holiday season so they can take vacation or time off that we'd support. What you have in front of you is a proposal that Ashley's put together. We actually have identified a contractor who works with other jurisdictions to provide this type of work. The idea would be is there'd be a dollar amount cap that the contract could not exceed with a maximum time limit that the contract would run, but the contractor would be paid per hourly service that they provide. The funding for this position would come from the billings that the position would generate, so it's essentially self-funded. We anticipate, and you can see the $30 an hour, that $30 per hour that would be the reimbursement on the contract is actually less than what the person would generate. So the contractor would still generate costs for the D6 department to cover overhead. That's the nuts and bolts of it. Ashley can do a much better job than I did, kind of give you a little more narrative of how she's kind of projecting out need over the next few months.
So I recently had one of the counselors resign. She's going to leave us in December. We're just looking at being able, the last time I had somebody resign from our office, it took me for 4.5 months to fill that position. So this position would be able to come in and just help with running some groups, doing some individual sessions, one through the holiday season. I also have one of my counselors that is going to have a baby in February, so she's going to be taking some maternity leave as well. So this just helps us manage our caseloads and our clients during that time. So.
And real quick, if I'm understanding correctly, anything that says employee, that's not true. It's going to be a contract.
Contract, yes.
So this will not be an employee. It won't run through a budget. It'll run through operating.
Yeah, she's got it listed here as a 1099 counselor, so.
Yeah, it just, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
So I just have a couple of questions. And I know you've had a struggle of filling positions, but this program was contracted out before. And then we come in and went in-house with D6. And are we diverting back to the old way? On why?
Great question, Commissioner. Our preference and our policy goals are always to seek employees. Our challenge here really is the struggle with filling vacancies as they come along. I think Ashley and D6 have done a good job kind of holding on to the initial cadre of counselors, but it's a really competitive environment right now, and the market out there for counseling is outpacing where we initially set compensation. And I think certainly the county benefits and pension has really helped us keep the folks who have stayed. But we expect, and we've seen it getting tougher and tougher to fill vacancies. So we always want to keep the employee model. This is really a time-limited, dollar-limited bridge to hopefully give us some time to have a successful recruitment. And we'll come back, and it's a different conversation, but hopefully along with kind of a county-wide approach, look at what is, what if anything needs to be done to help us recruit and retain county positions. So commitment, Commissioner Moser, our philosophy has not changed in terms of keeping employees. This is a reflection of our challenge to recruit and retain right now, and really the anticipated. We don't think it's going to be quicker than 4 months, but if we fill that vacancy, we would be able to look at this contract, and if it becomes necessary, we would not have to use the contractor anymore because we've filled the position.
Okay, and then the other part, you're talking about retaining and staying constant. If counseling, it seems like the same counselor's the goal, to help the same people. I mean, that's, I've heard that over and over and over again. And if we start running contractors in here, how do they have that continuity?
I think Ashley would be best to speak to that.
I mean, that's ideal to be able to keep that consistency with our clients. Ideally, we would love to bring somebody on long-term, and I think this helps just alleviate some of that stress that we're going to be under during the next couple months, just until we retain somebody. The counselor that we have on will be able to run groups and be able to provide the education and the skills-based things for those clients. So that's really what we're looking for. Is we understand that it's short-term. We understand that it's really about getting somebody in there to teach those skills. We really want to keep somebody consistent with those clients. That's our goal.
Okay. And then my one that I always hit you with, we're still involved with Teton.
Correct.
And are we overloading the people that are here in Bannock County serving people outside of the area?
I would answer that no, because again, we're not necessarily creating new groups for Teton County. We're not we're not creating more work necessarily because they're already participating in a group that we're already running. I mean, the caseload is fairly low there. Again, we also, when we talk about one of the counselors that's leaving, her caseload is she's running 5 groups along with 28 clients. So just losing that counselor alone doesn't change Teton. It just means that we have to fill in where she's leaving us. Does that make sense?
Oh, that'll always be my question.
Yeah,
are we servicing the people that are here? And you're talking about being overloaded, and we're bringing people from outside the area. So it doesn't make sense to me, that end of it.
It's a fair question, Commissioner Mosher, and if when we're at all of our approved positions full, we're golden. There's room on the bus. When we're down a position, then it not only, it affects the agency kind of globally because of all the different groups each counselor does run. So we go from running 5 buses to running 4 buses. And it's not just people in Teton County who fill those seats. It's really the majority or people within the 6th judicial district that in those seats, and we're selling the extra ones to Teton. So we need 5 buses. Right now with Stephanie leaving and in December, it takes us down to 4 buses, and that impacts, the biggest impact is on our service in D6 within the district, within the county. But Teton comes along with that because they're taking our extra seats.
And then as you write up your contract, Brian needs to look at it.
Absolutely.
I'm okay with it.
Yep, I approve it. I'm good.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept or approve D6 to hire a 1099 counselor or an independent contractor as a counselor for 6 months as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Gary, there's no reason for you to leave there.
Some more seats.
Pull up a few more chairs.
Works for Teton County's commissioner.
All right, Shanda.
Good morning, Commissioner. Shanda Crystal, Purchasing and Economic Analyst. I'm here along with
Carrie Long, Trial Court Administrator.
Dave Martinez, Public Defender. Rod Nels, Administrative District Judge.
and we are reporting back to the Commission in regards to an ongoing conversation that we've had in regards to our conflict of public defense. Braden and I were tasked with reaching out to various counties around Idaho to kind of see what was out there. We chose to reach out to the other 6 district seats in our area that were similar in what we do, not in size, right? It's everything from Ada to Idaho County, right? Very different populations. But as far as being a district seat, that's how and why we picked the counties we did. And in doing that, we learned something that we had talked about previously, that everybody does it a little different. So that was confirmed right across the board. Everybody has their own way of doing this. And so there's not one single right path. But as Braden and I talked to individuals throughout the county, throughout the state, it was very interesting that one thing did rise to the top. And that was that in 5 of the 6 other counties out there that we talked to, all of them, if they could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in their county, they would make an internal alternate conflict department within their county. It was very interesting to talk about. Some of them struggled greatly. Twin Falls struggles greatly, like us, in filling and keeping those contracts that they have currently. And we have other counties. Ada is paying the least amount of money to their contracts, but they don't quite have the same struggle that we do. And I don't know if it's the amount of attorneys that they have to pull from or something like that. They don't quite have the level of problems.
They have internal division in their public defense office is what was how they explained it to me
So
yesterday.
Ada does not.
They don't.
Mhm.
Yeah, what their problem is, and the reason they're looking to change is because some of their issues are similar to ours in that the people that are really experienced are aging out.
Oh.
So that's why they're looking at doing an internal office, but they do have a bigger population to draw from, and they're not.
Well, they were saying that their attorneys, they have so many attorneys in there, they tend not to conflict out as many. That was the discussion yesterday for the legislative group, because we're talking about making public defense a state-run agency, and Ada County right now is ardently against going to the state, and all of their commissioners and everybody in the room yesterday was like, no, because we have a big enough office to handle everything, we don't have conflict issues, we don't have this, and they made it sound like all of the issues that we're talking about here just don't simply exist in Ada County. And I was like, okay, can I have that magic sauce then and bring it back here, sprinkle it on something? I mean, what do you, but yeah, it's,
That's not a thing.
That's not a thing.
So they did in discussions with Tony Geddes.
Geddes.
Is that okay? So they're in contact with Maricopa County out of Arizona, and size-wise, right? Maricopa is to Ada as Ada is to us. right? They're about like 2-3 times bigger than we are. And so then as Maricopa has already moved to this system of having an internal conflict public defense office within their county. And so then Tony describes that they are in the very early planning stages of starting these discussions, similar to what we are discussing, and barely starting to plan and what would that look like for us and how would we run it, how would we staff it, and things like that.
Was Bonneville County the only one that we talked to that had the internal office already?
Everybody else's contracts.
And Maricopa County and Pima County actually have 4 separate offices. They don't have one conflict office. They have several conflict offices.
Yeah.
And they're all staffed properly. Our biggest problem right now is staffing generally. I mean, I've had a position open since April.
Well, and we just got notified we have another contract that's going to be expiring.
Yeah.
So the problem that we have, that we're running into, is we can't get contracts taken, and we can't get, I think, you know, it kind of goes back to the discussion that I had yesterday, and this is the big push of why we would like a district-wide, or a statewide with districts running public defense. And that's going to be a very real push in the legislature here starting in January, but it would take years, you know, another 2 years to get set up. And we still have to follow the rules and provide defense right now. And I think it would be probably at this point, I spoke with Brian about this, is get it posted for another contract, but at the same time try to start hiring at least one internal public defense or internal conflict public defender with a staff person, and try and see which one we're gonna get, because I know the problems with you have trying to hire attorneys. I know the problems that prosecutors have had half the time trying to. I mean, it's, you know, it was funny a couple years ago there were lawyers everywhere, and now there's no more lawyers. It's like, what happened to them all? But I don't know what else to do. I mean,
yeah, I don't know that we're going to get anything accomplished here until we address some of the salary issues and see how we're going to pull that out, because otherwise I'm just going to continue to run short so that we can hire a conflict person.
We'll see it, and the whole thing is this is not just a Bannock County salary-wise thing. I mean, this is when we start talking of like, you know, Twin Falls County Commissioners, Don Hall, and all those guys were with me yesterday. And as we start going through that, salary-wise, we're not like out of the rent. The problem is Idaho just none of the governments pay as much as what private sector and some of the other areas are doing. And that's one of the biggest problems that we're having right now. So when your state is the fastest growing state in the United States right now, what county was it the guy was from yesterday? It was one of the counties up north. They lost like 6 attorneys in like 2 weeks because private firms are just coming in and picking them off like crazy. It had to be up by Coeur d'Alene because that's where they were getting taken to. Is that Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls?
And they can't hire people right now because people can't live there for what they're paying.
Yeah. So
they're running short as well. I think she was down, last time I talked to Ann, she was down 7.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to do.
We've always been able to hire people based on the mission, because a lot of people believe in what we do. But right now, you know, kids are starting in firms making more than my felony deputies. So.
Well, and the problem simply is what the legislature is doing to our budgets right now. We don't have any internal monies to use, because once we start changing the salary compression for new attorneys starting, it creates a salary compression wave across the thing where then you're going to start your new attorneys more than what your felonies are making. Well, now we have to bump them all up. Well, then we just created one side of the arms race is now bigger, and then I have to go over to the prosecutor side and do that. And
well, we've never been paid differently than the prosecutors. So.
Well, and actually, that's been one of the things that I think that our county has benefited from is we've kept them the same, and it has kept a lot of conflict, problems, and just internal fight, hate, and discontent. I think it's actually kept it out. Is one thing that I've, you know, there's a bunch of the counties that we're talking about. That's actually one of the goals that they're moving to, is they're putting all attorneys, you know, if you're a licensed member of the bar, this is what you know.
So there are, sorry.
So in your studying, finding out, any suggestions, any direction?
So we did, as Brandon and I discussed and talked, we would like to recommend to the board, and how quickly this is moved upon, right, is obviously up to you. We would recommend that Bannock County move toward an internal Department of Conflict Public Counsel. is our recommendation.
Do you know what staffing level, 1, 2?
So that would depend on a lot of further discussions. We would like to have additional discussions with Dave. There would be, depending on the types of conflicts, right? Are we looking at, is there 80% felony, right? Then maybe we're looking at bringing on a single staff and a support staff to be able to handle some of those as we slowly roll. We would recommend that we keep some of these contracts in place. We would move them to hourly because we would use them as like the third and fourth on the cases that happen that need that many conflicts out. So we would see that we would use them very sparingly. But there would be a lot more discussions as far as appropriate staffing. There would be discussions with Christie's office as far as, right, what level? Are we looking at internal, not internal, entry level, senior level, right? To build that budget to know what dollar amounts we're looking at. There would be a lot of other discussions if the board would like to.
Well, and the other question too that I had is if you're running your internal conflict, would it make sense to have that person be just like a misdemeanor, or be the one that what is the one cases that you guys always say take the longest? That are
Child protection.
Child protect. I mean, is there stuff like that? Would it be wise to have that attorney is just going to do, instead of having like a split load of like felony, misdemeanor, or whatever, or however? Do you want them to focus on one thing, or what would be best?
Probably not. It depends on the numbers, but there's a felony caseload equivalent, so there's a counter that you can use on the Public Defense Commission website, where you can put in the number of felonies, the number of misdemeanors, and the number of child protection cases to get to that 210 felony case equivalent. The people that we're using now are doing maybe 70 cases a year. So, I mean, they can do 3 times that number, but that doesn't mean there are that number of conflicts that can all go in one direction.
Yes.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I don't understand the conflict process, and maybe Judge, you're the one to ask, or Dave, I don't know which one, but can you guys share with me, how does a case get conflict? What's our process for saying, oh, this one has to be conflicted here, this one has to be conflicted there? Just educate me, please.
I review every file, and if there's a co-defendant or we're currently representing, the victim in the case, then it ethically has to be conflicted out. So we keep a list of all of the people that have been conflicted out before. So when we notify Carrie's office, we let them know who's had this person before, so we're not creating multiple levels of conflicts. So we've kept track of those since we've started.
So if I were to go through your system one time before and get conflicted out, and I were to come through again, say 2 years later, would I get conflicted out again?
No.
Or
not unless there was a conflict on that case.
Okay.
If there's no conflict on that case, I keep it. I keep every case I can.
So,
and if we build walls in some cases where the conflict exists, but it's something that we think we can build a wall between the 2 attorneys and make sure they don't discuss something, then I can try and keep some of those.
Okay.
Well, I think that's part of the discussion, like the Bonneville County, where they do have their internals.
Mm-hmm.
They have, that's the first level that catches as much as they can. And if that guy can't, or position can't, and I think they had 2 and we're going to hire a 3rd one. And so the first one, if the first, one of those 2, that's where they're trying to fit. If neither one of those 2, then they use their contracted people for. And I think that if we did that right now, hey, let's post another contract, and let's post an internal and see which one. I mean, to tell you the truth, I think we need to kind of go fishing and see, because I don't even know what attorneys or what, like you said, that's the biggest problem we run into. And if we can get an internal, and that's what we keep our contracts here, because we do have contracts running for the next little bit, and let's start trying to build, how do we do this? And I think the process is going to be, again, and I know it's extremely difficult in the law because of how you have to conflict things or whatever, but I think if we can start trying to really work on that process to see, can we get this to work to become as efficient as possible, to where, hey, and then the question would be, is it, like Jeff said, so if somebody goes through the system and gets conflicted out, if they come back through again, do you try and get them back to that same public defender that had them the last time, or do they go to a different attorney?
When they get conflicted out, or
well,
when they
no, like I just say,
way,
even if you conflicted somebody out that say Joe whatever came through and had a problem and got conflicted out to one of our conflict attorneys because there was internal problems in the office. But then 2 years later, Joe got in trouble again. Would you try and send him back to the conflict because that guy was already familiar with that individual, or would you put him into the public defense? And then if it did stay internal and there wasn't a conflict, do you try and keep that person with that same attorney?
Yes.
So as long as that attorney works at Bannock County, he's going to try and see the same people. That's kind of what I'm asking. Is kind of like how D6 is trying to keep with the same. I mean,
Clientele.
same clientele. I hate to say, I'm not trying to. But,
That therapeutic relationship. It does become a challenge once to have that same, like right now, our contract conflicts to stay with that same defendant. Because really, we try to balance workload, right? When it's coming, Dave's office is conflicting out, and we're saying, okay, who's the next conflict up to take that? It may or may not be that conflict, if the person's come through the system before, representative. I mean, that's kind of the nature of how we're trying to balance workload. I think sometimes it happens serendipitously that they'll land with the same person, or sometimes the conflicts will kind of sort a little bit out of themselves. And then really only if our contract conflicts can't take that case, then it hits that third tier, right? And that's the hourly non-contract conflicts that we'll try and find just by reaching out to the bar to try and find someone who's willing to take that case on an hourly basis. And my perception is, when we look at the shifting, the turnover in contractors, it seems like most of the change we've seen has been around those contractors who dealt primarily with felony work. So when we lost Steve Larson and Doug Dykeman, and then what Sawtooth is handling right now, the bulk of their work is felony. And so when we think about where do you want to put the investment, where do you want to put the money, it seems like that's where we're having the most movement in the system.
And Sawtooth's barely gotten started, so
Yeah.
I don't know what their issue is.
So, as we talk about this, and we come up with a plan, right now, kind of the flow chart, you turn the conflicts over to Kerry,
Well, I've tracked everything.
but,
So-
and then he makes the assignment, so, to the attorney. Am I-
Well, the judge has to let us out, so we're not, we can't just say we're out.
Yeah,
So we send an order to the judge, but when we let Carrie's office know, we let them know that we have a conflict, who's represented that person before if they have, and we track the numbers for every conflict case that goes out, who it goes to, how many cases they've received in a month. We track all of that stuff. So we have all of that information that can call at any time.
I guess what I'm trying to ask a little bit is kind of the flow chart of who makes sure that the conflicts are doing what they're supposed to be doing. The supervisor kind of deal. If we bring this in-house, that's what I'm trying to look at, a flow chart of, okay, who would be over the conflicts?
The Board of
and how it would go.
It's the Board of Commissioners. Is Bonneville County, those two internals answer directly to the Board of County Commissioners.
That's my question.
I can't supervise them, and
Okay.
they can't supervise each other.
Okay.
So that's the hassle.
And that's what I was looking at, you
Yeah.
know, if we bring that in-house, what's the flow chart and how do we?
Well, and I think the supervisory role, even in the Board of County Commissioners having, while we have oversight of maybe the administrative actions of that, I think the legal review, how do we know right now that if a contract goes out to a conflict attorney, that conflict attorney is actually representing them in a proper means within the law? Like right now today with one of these contracts we have, what's our QA QC process?
So that's feedback that you get from end users, right? We've tried to talk about different ways to measure performance on those conflict contracts, about gathering feedback from judges, other attorneys, court staff, because these are the commission's contracts, right? And providing the commission with at least some sort of, it's not a great metric because it's anecdote. You'll get back saying, hey, Kerry showed up every time he was on the calendar to represent the case, and really that's the kind of thing that you would get back. The court otherwise is not in a position to really play a big role in measuring this is a 5-star legal representation or 4-star legal representation. It would be that the defendant has legal representation that they're entitled to throughout the length of the case. So it's kind of binary. It's either it is or it isn't.
So could we do something kind of like we get it for all of the judges, the commissioners, we get performance judicial reviews all the time of, hey, for this judge, have you worked with this person? But would there be a way that we could have the judges that work with, around that just unbiased feedback that's just an anonymous sent that, hey, the judges have sent back, is this person timely, prompt, prepared? I mean, because I don't know how else that the commission could, because then you run into a whole HR gambit of red or blue questions, because the worst people to try and fire are attorneys, I'm just saying,
I think the judicial canons wouldn't allow that. I think when we really start looking at the judicial canons, we're not in a position to make recommendations or say this person is a appropriate attorney. I think you run into some problems. I'd want to talk to the judicial council before you
well,
on that road.
Just something, if there's anything that just gives like not the type of work they're doing, but are they prepared? And that's something I guess that I look at that as a quality control measure for all parts of the county that we're responsible to fund. When the public defenders and prosecutors are showing up, how do we measure that? What is that metric? I guess.
I think you certainly can get feedback from judicial assistants, clerk's office, the defendants themselves. I think you get good feedback there.
I think you could also have some pretty biased opinions on your.
You could, both good and bad.
Yeah.
It may be interesting to see. So like in 7th District, they have a lead within the Office of Conflict, right? And they're right under the commission. I'm wondering if that lead has some sort of established QA, QC, or metric that they report back to the commission. I'm sure you can get number of cases assigned, number of cases disposed of, just some generic numbers. But it almost seems like having that lead evaluate the performance of the attorney based upon the defined expectations within that office that are approved by the commission. That's more supervisory.
If we're going to get that information, we need to get it from someplace that's run probably longer and more efficiently than Monadoke County. We should probably be reaching out to Tucson or someplace like that. Tucson would have been a better place for Boise to go to too, because they're more similar in size.
Do you think that would be the best place to start, having the supervisor or lead, or like in your office, David? Are you and your Scott and your Reese, do you guys? You're the ones who are coaching up your attorneys if there's any issue.
And we do our performance reviews within the office.
So, and I diverted there, I apologize, that's not back to what we're here for.
This is a long conversation, so the more questions that get asked, the better, because it's not an easy issue.
But I think, Shanda, you was just starting to talk. You had.
So, right, again, my two things that I wanted to bring out of this meeting today is one, if you accepted Braden's and I recommendation to travel down this path and have additional conversations. Like I've been mentioning, there are a lot of moving pieces that we're going to have to implement. This is not going to be changed tomorrow or next week or anything like that. So there's a lot, like Dave's talking about, other questions and things that need to be vetted out and brought back towards the board and say, does this fit with us? So I do think there's a lot of other conversations to have if the board was on board with traveling down this path, right? Brandon and I are more than happy to continue doing our research. If there's better context, Dave mentioned Tucson County, right? We'd be more than happy to reach out to them because he is right as far as Idaho goes, right? Bonneville's doing it for 6 years. And the 7th District one that they're talking about are contracts, so not quite an employee way of doing things. There are different conversations that we'd want to have with Ryan also to be able to make sure that all attorneys were treated the same and make sure that we're not singling out or doing anything weird like that. But we could definitely have additional conversations and just continue this conversation, right, as we bring more information and just slowly start stepping down this path.
Well, and I do think we need to continue that. We need to not have paralysis by analysis. We are now running into a fact that we're going to lose another contract, and we're going to be 2 contracts down, where normally we have 5. We're going to be down to 3, and what I start, my fear is then is not providing an adequate defense for people. Because that starts to back up, and not only does that affect the courts, that affects that, but then you also have to look at the liability issue for the county of, are we opening ourselves up to another lawsuit that's, I mean, we're already got one that's fighting. And so do we, you know, and that's the whole thing is I would say, well, we need to continue down this path. I think we need to go ahead and get the contract posted again, and I would start moving to get an internal job description written and start moving forward and try and see if we can get, because last time we had the contract posted, we had, last time we had 2, the time before that we had 1 that pulled out, and then it was actually Matt Curbs that was called around to a bunch and actually got some involved. I mean, it wasn't like it was a whole bunch of people beating down the door to get a contract. And so I think that we need to go ahead and get it posted as a contract, but then try and get the internal and see what we can come up with.
We can see how the election goes at the end of the month, and maybe everybody in Pocatello will quit.
Okay, that was funny.
All right, I agree with Terrell. Let's get this posted to fill a vacancy that we have right now. Let's continue to search the internal method, and we got to figure out where the money's coming from, and the whole process, where we're putting people. I mean, so I agree with you, Terrell. It needs to move forward at a quick pace, but we need to do it the right way also.
Yep.
Comments?
Yeah, I wouldn't post anything for a while until we've got a lot of our ducks in a row.
Oh, sorry.
No,
we're talking the
posting is
conflict, just the conflict
current
contract.
contracts that we don't have anybody in. That's the one that I would like posted.
Yeah, and
Not internal.
There's some
one
people
yet.
that I think, I'll make some phone calls too. There's some people I think might be interested.
Okay. Yeah, I want to continue down the path of internal. I don't want to post an internal job yet.
We need, but we got to get that contract up and see if maybe we can get somebody to.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean.
Okay.
So that was number 2, right? Was that we have a vacancy coming, we have 60 days to get it filled, and I was going to recommend that we go ahead and post status quo, right, and seek those letters of interest and start getting them. We talked a couple months ago about building a review board that would be able to review those letters of interest once they arrive and be able to make a recommendation before the board. I'd like to touch base and solidify who might sit on that committee as well.
Okay.
Okay. And honestly, right now, I think you and you two and Terrell.
Yeah.
I mean, that gives you 4 of them.
The judge can't be on there.
Judge can't be on there, and where you can't supervise them either.
I can't, but I can give you an opinion on somebody's legal skills. And Tony actually hires them, and he's the one who does the interviews in Ada County.
Yeah.
The public defender does the interviews
Does he?
because other people wouldn't know what to ask.
Okay. Well, when you said you can't supervise them, that's why
I can't supervise them, but I can give you an opinion on whether or not they can do the job.
I think you can be in the interview.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
you can. I think you're part of the advisory group, just like everybody when they ask questions. You know, and actually, I think with one of the contracts, we had somebody from your office that actually was in there because we had somebody from the prosecutor's office that was in there too. It was when Jared Johnson had, because we had Jared in there, and then there was somebody that came over from your. It might have been, what's your predecessor's?
Randy?
I think Randy actually was the one that sat in. It was Randy and Jared that came in, and they answered, and the 3 commissioners, we know some general questions, but it was those 2 that handled pretty much the entire interview, so.
Yeah, and John Cummings, I think, put in late last time, and he's been doing some work in Oneida County, so through the PDC, I'm mentoring him, so.
Okay.
He may want to put in.
Yeah, well, if you're able to be on it, I have no problem with that either.
So I'm good. Okay. Move forward.
Okay? Any other comments?
I don't know, the judge took a lot of notes, but I think, because Judge Knaps and I met last week, and I think he's got a lot of the practical stuff down, that his input's going to be invaluable as we go forward on this. he's been great as an administrative judge. He's been really involved, and he and Carrie have worked together really well on trying to improve service here. So
You're going to start seeing a big push in the legislature to either take this as a statewide agency or create districts or create funding district mechanisms, or there's about 6 different ideas that are being pushed right now. You're seeing both judiciary committees in the House and Senate both have their own. I talked to both of the chairmen of that committee yesterday, and they're.
You talked to Lakey?
Yeah, I talked to Lakey yesterday, and then I talked to Cheney in the House. And so there's something's going to be, because the problem you have is every county's running into these issues. And so whether it be a district like we've discussed, Dave, where it would be just mirror the judicial district, and then it would be like the spoken will, the main district, but then you'd work together as your satellites, but the state then would basically, I think the big thing they're looking at is facilities costs and that. And so I think Bannock County is actually going to have a lot of eyes on it. Because of where all the public defenders are moving into one building that's off-site, that's leased, that we can show an exact cost. And whether that means that the state takes it over directly, or the state just has a funding mechanism to help alleviate some of the cost and provide additional funding for pay and attorney positions. There's going to be a ton of discussion this time, and I think everybody is finally seeing that this is something that has to be discussed this next session. So.
Well, it's been around since I was a public defender.
Oh, yes.
30 years ago, we've had this discussion, so don't get your hopes up. Okay? Don't get too excited about it, because I have a feeling you're not going to be happy.
Thanks, Judge.
Hey, the main thing that we're pushing...
Hey, I'm glad that you're having that discussion, and it's still out there. But honestly, I've been here so long, I've just seen it come and go.
The big discussion, I think, that's really going to be the one that's going to gain traction is the $1.4 billion in state surplus monies.
Sure.
That you're actually probably going to see more of a, no, the state doesn't want to take it, but we're going to help you counties then. And that would be a huge, and that's one of the other options is instead of having the state take it, but right now the cost of public defense in the state of Idaho is about $60 million just for the cost that we do know.
Great progress
Yeah.
in the last 30 years,
Yes.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. It's a difference between night and day in representation.
Yep.
So that's the positive.
Yeah. And that's why I say there's a lot of eyes that are looking, and I think if we could get the state to just, hey, help us kick in and pay for some of these things to address some of the staffing issues and some of the other stuff, especially where the state is setting standards, I think that's probably going to be our biggest mechanism is just to have in that surplus amount. There's already, it sounds like, in their pre-talks, about $100 million that they've set aside. That they're going to have a conversation over.
The monies that the PDC's been giving out have been exhausted early this year, so
Yes.
all of the things that they're trying to get to, like social workers in the bigger offices and things like that, they're not even coming close.
Yeah.
So.
Shannon?
I had one more item. As far as the seeking letters of interest, we need to know when the services will begin. Will that be January 1st, as far as the notice that they gave?
It was 60 days, so it'll be pretty quick. I think, I don't have the exact date, but I think it's December. So
Okay.
we'll get that information to you.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
got to be the end of December, isn't it, Brian?
I think, yeah, December. I think, I have to get the exact date.
Do we have one from two?
So we have one official letter, right? And then
The second's coming.
Ongoing conversation?
Yes, yes.
It sounds like the second will be
With Stratton.
very quickly.
But the second is on a 30-day notice and not a 60-day notice.
Yeah.
The other is the cutoff to receipt of those letters. I was thinking the end of the month. Give them a full.
Leave it open until it's filled.
We do need a cutoff, so then the advisory board can review and discuss.
You can leave it open. You don't technically have to cut it. You can leave any position until filled, and as they're reviewed and come in, you can just leave it ongoing. There's nothing that says that you have to do that. And in this position, I would probably highly recommend that, because the problem that we've had in the past is we had one come in and then we closed it, and then a week later somebody's, oh yeah, well.
I have a little different thought on that. I like to put a deadline on it, because if you're interested, then you're going to, if it's until filled, sometimes they just let it go and let it go.
I just look at it like in this job market right now. I've watched every single entity, Idaho State, the state, everybody has removed all of their closing days. And that's why they're doing that, is because by the time they go, they close it, it doesn't work, they have to say they did it, then they have to go back through their process again, turn it back on. In some of these high level ones, that this is not a person walking off the street that's going to just go fill out a job
Is there
application.
something where open until filled, but review of letters will begin on this date?
That's what I was
And
thinking.
then make that tight?
Yeah.
That's even open?
Yeah,
Yeah.
open
Yeah.
until filled, but applications.
Because I don't want to have these guys come back again when,
Or you can put, applications received by this date will receive a priority.
Yeah.
yes, there you go, there you go. See, that's what happens when you have a room full of lawyers.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, I think we have a direction. Thank you,
Thank you very much.
all of you.
Oh, I got a migraine going on today.
What happened? Spend time in the big city. Hit a mic train.
You go to the legislature and it's just like, this hurts.
We gotta send them to.
All right, Braden, you're up.
All right, I am filling in for Chantel. Braden Clayson, Chief of Staff. I have for you guys the State of Idaho contract for the Crisis Center.
I'll get it.
This has been reviewed by legal. It's just extending it to April of 2023. And Brian, you did review this, right? Chantel said you guys already reviewed it, so that's all that we have here. Is just getting the extension on it and submitting it to the State of Idaho.
Okay. Okay,
There's also a contract that we need to sign with DeVere.
okay, that's what I was looking at.
Yep, and that one will be, once we can get him on the agenda, he'll come in and sign that.
So in our packet,
I think in the packet, it should have been updated to
this
just
was
reflect the
amendment
state of
number
Idaho.
2 and amendment number 4. So which ones? We're talking number 4.
Number 4, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yep. Amendment number 4.
Because it had DeVere's name at the bottom of the other one, that's why I was
Right,
questioning.
yep, and we'll get that one signed as soon as we can get him on the agenda.
Okay. I mean, there's actually no choice. The state just says we're not paying you as much money,
Yeah,
right? So,
pretty much.
so I'd ask for a motion, or if there's further questions.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the contract as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 All right,
That was an easy one.
yes,
Thank you.
you're still up.
Now the tough one.
Oh, which one we got now?
Holiday.
Oh, yes. Which was, where'd my notes on this?
Before you get too deep in this,
This is from Tuesday,
Gotcha. Well, go ahead, Ernie.
before you get too deep in this, I've been awake a few nights thinking about this. And I don't want to put another holiday down.
Okay.
In our conversation with the electeds, there was a couple things that came up. One is the part-time employees and the 4 hours that they wouldn't get and stuff. And then the other is we bring up Juneteenth, and I don't want this associated with that and a holiday. I don't want it to come back later and say, well, instead of doing this holiday, you're doing this, and I don't want them conversations mixed together as a tool to say that we're discriminating. Actually, I talked with Scott after our meeting the other day, and it was just some of the conversation of, we talked about Juneteenth at the same time we're talking about this holiday, and are we transferring one holiday for another? And I don't want that part of the discussion. I think that it's too early until we figure out what we're doing with all holidays. I just then go back and give the 4 hours this year and do it the same way we did last year. I'm just not ready to throw another holiday out there just because.
How do you want to handle Juneteenth, though, being a federal holiday? The courts will be closed. And we had people reach out to us last year about that.
You can still just leave it, and I think that you might have a little bit of time to see what happens, because the legislature might actually take some action on this term, to have it go into effect immediately for the state, for the tax deadline, to move it 2 or 3 days to the left or to the right. So that was
Move the tax deadline.
the tax deadline. And so if the tax deadline changes, and that's kind of the thing is, we've had some discussions, is if the tax deadline is moved from the 20th to like the 18th or the 22nd, that's actually what's being talked about right now, is the legislature will just go in and just move that date, and then that doesn't interfere with it.
They're not gonna make that effective next year because they're getting ready to do tax bills in 2 weeks.
Oh, no, the legislature, trust me,
So the tax bills will just be wrong.
Oh, yeah, they'll probably do something. Oh, trust me.
But it still comes down to that there's 15 national holidays.
Yeah.
We don't give people off for all 15 national holidays, and I say we treat this the same way at this time until
Until we figure out what's going on.
we look at the big picture. And
The 22nd.
that's just the way I've felt about it after looking at it. I know that we was trying to do things for this year, and I look at Julie's deal, the day after Thanksgiving, they're gonna be open for walk-in voting. So I don't know, I just had an uncomfortable feeling of moving in a direction right now without more conversations about it, just because
So do you just want to do the 4 hours for?
it worked last year, and I'd still say, here's your appreciation, thank you, and do the same thing. And I mean, we could start at, when's your pay periods? I guess it really doesn't matter, but
Monday starts 1, but then, oh, no, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Because the department's gonna track it anyway. So
yeah,
you
we
would
could
just-
start,
You would just give 4 hours and they'll have to put
Wow.
it before we'll just want to review the memo that you're going to send out so that we can make sure that pay code is set up. And supervisors track it, we don't, so.
I'd start like the week of Thanksgiving, the Monday from Thanksgiving, and go to the end of January. That they have that time period to take the 4 hours. Oh, any
No,
comments?
yeah, and I think we do need to see if the legislature is going to do anything about it, and then it sets the policy. And I think we set the policy then in budgetary cycle next year, and that's when you have to address it. Then is, hey, this is, the legislature did move it 2 days back or whatever they're talking about doing. If they actually are going to do that, then we know. If the legislature takes no action this year, then it means that they will not change it, and then it'll become down to us to do it. But if they decide to bring in the rules and change the rules, then.
And then I think it's up to the supervisors, like planning and zoning, if they want their office to be closed the day after Thanksgiving. That supervisor talks to his people, and I've already talked to Hal, and he says they're either taking comp time or vacation to cover that. And I think that we leave that to the supervisors.
I think last year what we did was, when you guys sent the memo out, you just said if offices are going to be closed, please contact, I think it was the commission, so that
We knew it was
you guys
closed.
knew who was closed and who was open in case you got paid
Yeah.
out. But then it was up to the elected official if they could close the offices, and they just be clear that they have to use either vacation or comp. Sick is not an option.
What if they don't have vacation or comp?
Then they work, or they make up time through the week.
What if the office is closed?
Then they have to make
Then
up for the week.
So if you have an employee, say you're an office of 5, and you have an employee that has no leave, they don't have the option to be clowned. They have to work. I mean,
Yeah, curious. Okay,
but most offices make time up through the week.
just kind of flex the hours and
Yeah.
Yeah,
make it work.
but if you don't have time,
And that's what, we want supervisors to be supervisors.
Yeah.
And if they contact their office and says, we've got it arranged,
Well,
I
I just,
don't want to nitpick what they're doing.
I anticipate these questions coming to me, so that's.
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
yeah, but traditionally, we've just said, if you don't have time, I guess you gotta work. I guess the elected official could allow you to have leave without pay, but
A lot of offices, they have enough comp time or stuff they've worked up there.
you'd be surprised how many employees get 4 hours and use 4 hours.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's the consequence of being where you're at.
Yeah,
I guess we could authorize them to use their long-term sick and burn that off.
No. Because then you're gonna have individuals using and abusing, and you have enough people that use mental health
Only on this
days.
day you can only have.
But the people that don't have vacation or
Yeah.
comp aren't gonna have sick either.
Yeah.
Because they use mental health days
Yeah.
throughout.
That's just the way I've felt, since we've talked about it and numerous times, I think that we're early in creating a holiday just to create a holiday.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Talk about foregoing that, adding that 11th day then.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you should have a memo from last year, I'm sure Christy knows where it's at, that the
Okay.
commission sent out. If you'll just
Send
update it,
that out with
revise
the
it.
4
But
hours.
before you do that, would you let us review
Yeah.
it? Just make sure
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
it's got the right pay code and stuff like that.
I'd like to review it too.
Okay. We can do that.
Okay. Next, we have signature on quitclaim deed.
There are two of them. These are properties that were sold last week for you back to sell and paid as we cash it.
Okay. This one, these two.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve signature on both quitclaim deeds for the properties that were sold as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye. Okay. And then next, we have Christie.
Good morning. Christy Davenport, Management Assistant, here to talk to you about the anniversary recognition for employees that are celebrating particular milestones in their employment with Bannock County. In years past, the commission has extended this recognition to employees celebrating 10, 20, 25, and 30 years with Bannock County. This year, there are 21 employees that are eligible for this, and the total cost is $1,275. I just wanted to see how the commission would like to proceed this year.
How close are we to the 50-year one?
So last year we had Paula Larson, and she was at 45 years last year, and we did recognize her. So she's at 46 years this year.
Who's the lady across the street? Is that her?
No, she's Judge Axeline's
Yeah,
here.
that's who.
Across the hall,
Okay.
yeah.
And then
She's our long-term.
I know she's always talked about 50 years, and I go, wow.
She's got 4 more.
Okay.
We'll throw her a party.
No, I think that, have we identified how do we pay this?
It comes
Commissioner
out.
Tubby's travel.
Yeah. I believe it comes out of commission, out of the hostess line. I would have to double check on that one. I think it comes out of 42412. With the old 42412, which is 42490.
Look, I'd say we go ahead and identify the funds, and we start passing out.
Okay.
1st of December.
Sure. So I'll submit this memo. I'll have you guys sign it next week and then submit it to auditing shortly, so that, because I know there's a couple of different dates, so.
And we need, if we don't provide those at a celebratory event, it's taxable. So can you provide payroll with a list of those two?
Yeah.
We get to tax it.
What do we give them?
A check.
A check?
Can it be if a department is having a Christmas party and it's delivered during the Christmas party? Is that, or are you talking about specifically a party for them?
No, it
organizing?
doesn't have to be for them. You
Oh.
just, to comply with IRS regulations, it's just got to be presented at a celebratory event, so that you get a recognition.
So
we
could the
typically do it at, like,
commissioner's
their-
office have that event?
Well, no, we usually do it at like their department, like they usually have if they have like a department,
We can just call each department
Christmas
together
party.
when we go present them and celebrate.
telling you what the rules are so that you can
Yeah, we
comply.
just gotta
and you
celebrate.
just tell me how you comply, and if you do that, then I don't have to tax it.
We had
Which
one of them-
I prefer not to, but
One of them,
We'll arrange it so that we
Okay.
do not have to tax it. So
Cool.
Okay.
we will
we did one of them
buy
last
some
year.
party favors and take with us.
Okay.
We did the one last year in the clerk's office when they had their Christmas party and their big potluck, everything. That's the one we did most of them, because last year, because of COVID, we didn't have a big, there was no employee appreciation, anything that way.
the other thing you could maybe do is just, we have an information officer now too, that maybe you do a little, you know how you do retirement parties, maybe you do a little thing in here and bring cookies or something and
Yeah.
have those people come in
Invite
and post it on the website, thanks for recognition of employees, something like that too. That might embarrass a handful of people.
Are you in this group?
Nope. I'm at 22.
It's really weird. We added a 22nd year this year, so yeah. It's like $12.50 she gets.
I think I was sick that day.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we'll be at recess till 11 o'clock.
Are they here?
So Dr. Force and Mr. Herget are here, and I let them know that I made that mistake, and they're very kind. I don't know,
As soon as-
Brian, since we haven't noticed on the website that there could be a 15-minute flex,
Mhm.
would it be okay if they start that meeting at 10:45 instead of 11? Okay. Can I bring them in?
Yeah.
I need like 5 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know.
Pretty please.
I'm gonna walk.
I didn't eat the gas station sushi, but probably something similar yesterday. That's probably.
We don't need to know.
Thanks, Harry. Thank you for saved us on that one.
No, I think that's good.
The holiday thing. I
Yeah.
think that saves a lot of headache. Tough decision to make, but I think
Well,
we're good.
we haven't given anything out, and we'll still give the 4 hours that
Yeah.
we've given. But, like I say, I visited with Scott a little bit afterwards, and boy.
Yeah, no, I think you made the right choice.
Hello.
How are you? How are you doing again? Good to see you.
Good to see you, Bill. Dr. Force?
Hi.
Nice to meet you, I'm Brady.
Hey, nice to see you again.
Instead of getting
Sure, sure. Yep.
Where you headed, Braden?
Just down to the office real quick, I'll grab. Yep.
You want to give these to Christie?
You bet.
Kind of like admin leave. So
You need me to bring anything up to you?
any time between like Thanksgiving and New Year's.
I need to make sure.
You got it.
And it's not going to
Is there anything in this last?
We'll do it 19th later. Non-related.
There was nothing on this
That's,
meeting here.
I don't think
you
so.
know, I kind of
Okay.
think that too.
Thank you.
We're
You
not,
bet.
I think
You need me to bring anything up to you?
discussion of
No.
Okay.
I'm good. I'm good.
See you in just a second.
You know,
Yes. Yep.
a little bit of a landline. Yeah. I would guess so.
Well, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having
You
me.
guys doing anything for Thanksgiving?
Hi, I'm Rex Force.
My sister in law